Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Guy. This is Guy Talk Sports. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. By now, you know Tennessee beat Alabama over the weekend. It was a big win for the Vols. We're going to talk all about that, break the game down, figure out where Tennessee landed in the new AP poll, and where Tennessee's going to go next, right? What they got on the horizon. But before we go into anything, real quick, down below in the description box, you'll see some timestamps if you want to jump ahead to any particular part of the video where I talk about the offense, defense, so on and so forth. Before you do anything, though, down below you'll see a subscribe button. If you don't mind, go ahead and smash that for me. Help me continue to grow this channel. Let's talk about the big win. The Volunteers beat the Crimson Tide 24-17. It was a big time win, a big win, big program win. Honestly, it was just atrocious first half, as you've come to expect over these last few weeks. But when Tennessee decided to turn it on, they did. It was a back and forth second half, and Tennessee ends up getting the win. So let's start off with the offense. First half woes continue, right? Like I just said, third straight game where it's a scoreless first half. And I think that's I think on the broadcast it said it was the first time since like the 1960s that's happened. So not great, nothing you would ever expect from a Josh Heupel team. But sure enough, it happened. There were multiple opportunities. You had Dylan Sampson, of all people, right? Just like last week when Nico kind of fumbled the mesh point there when we were driving. Dylan Sampson, big run, right? You're getting off early with a big run down to the opponent 20, gets kind of spun around by a defender, and then another one kind of reaches in and pulls it out, fumbles the ball, stops that momentum. And then you had Nico getting twisted up like a pretzel on this one play he was trying to make. He was getting tackled from behind, tries to like bend back as he's going down, kind of hurts his back or hip and slams his head into the ground. It was kind of scary to watch, but anyway, he was ruled down before he threw this kind of backwards lateral pass that ended up going for a few yards, but he ended up getting ruled down. You have Gaston Moore coming in, ready for the big time. And first play, tries to do too much with it, throws a deep bomb, interception. And so that's the second turnover. And then towards the end of the second half, Tennessee's driving, going all the way down. You see Nico, he snaps the ball, waiting. Nobody's coming open. Kind of scampers off to the left. And I literally was saying as I was watching the game, just throw it away, take the field goal. And then he tries to throw it, gets hit while he's throwing it. I think it would have been picked off even if he had thrown it. The dude was double covered. Gets hit as he throws, another interception. There were just a couple penalties that kind of cost the Vols. Brazel got called for a hold on a big third down play. I think John Campbell got called for another hold. The penalties did improve on the offensive line anyway. I think offensive line overall played a little bit better this game than they have the last two games. I think since that Arkansas game, they took a little step forward for the Florida game. I think they took another step forward for this Alabama game, especially in the second half. By no means are they playing great. They're playing okay. And so, but for this offensive line, I feel like that's a big deal, especially as bad as they have been playing. So, you have turnovers, some penalties. There were a few. Once again, it is not Josh Heupel's inability to scheme people open. Multiple times in this game, just like the Florida game, you had people flying down the field, nobody on them, and they're just getting overthrown. Nico is not hitting those passes, especially in the first half, and we'll kind of break down first half to second half. So you had the overthrows, a couple drop passes, and that was the first half. And it once again was just this kind of clunker where it was just something was just off. Somebody was open, but it was an overthrow. There was a penalty. There was a turnover. There was this or that. And so you ended up just with another bad first half. And, kudos to the crowd for sticking in that game because it was really hard to watch. But then the second half happened. So you come out, Nico, I think, had one more overthrow to Brew McCoy. And after that, he played really well. He played really, really well. He had an amazing play that he threw to Dante Thornton where he did this rollout and then chucks it 50 yards down the field to Dante Thornton. It was one of the best throws I've seen in Neyland Stadium. It was one of the best throws I've seen by a Tennessee quarterback. It was an amazing, amazing play. Dante Thornton ran under it. Great catch. Took us inside the 5-yard line, and then Dylan Sampson finished the drive off. You had the run game start to get going in that second half. That really opened things up. Dylan Sampson got loose for a few big runs. Nico had a big run, and that was a big deal at the time because when he's running the ball, it just makes every defender have to be honest when they're doing that kind of play action with him and Dylan Sampson. And so it's a big deal, him running the ball, big time run. They rolled him out, like I said. I think both of those things helped this offense a lot. Dylan Sampson, like I said, got going and just had another amazing game. Once again, ended up with 26 carries for 139 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. So if you're keeping count, that's 17 touchdowns this season on the ground for Dylan Sampson. He is one away from tying a record that has stood for, I think, almost 100 years. I think 1929 was when it was set by Gene McEver or something like that. 100 years this record's been there for in UT history for the rushing touchdowns in a season. And Dylan Sampson's going to break it. He got 2 again this game, 17. The record's 18. And he once again shows why he's the most important person on that offense right now. When Nico's on, this offense is really clicking. But when he's off, you have needed Dylan Sampson in these games. And he has come through time and time again. I know he had that fumble at the beginning of the game. But, man, he's just so important for this team. So it was awesome to see him keep it going. Like I said, the offensive line, not great, but definitely improved. Nico making some improvement, rolling him out, running the ball, and finally connected on that deep pass to Dante Thornton, and then had an absolute dime to put Tennessee up at the end of that game. I think Tennessee was down 17-14, and Nico throws Brazel open instead of waiting for Brazel to get open. And Brazel makes a diving catch into the end zone, and it was an amazing, amazing play. Such a big play for that game, and put Tennessee up and ultimately proved to be the game-winning touchdown. So great job by them. I thought Brew McCoy and Dante Thornton both had a really good game. It was good to see Brazel getting involved in the game. Squirrel White, every time he was on that field, that shoulder injury that he has right now, I think it's his AC joint. And as a wide receiver, at some point you have to realize, and I give him, a lot of praise for trying to go out there and grit it out, right? But at some point you start to become a detriment because when he's out there, he's not able to get both hands on the ball. And so you have a one-armed wide receiver out there, basically. We have a lot of talented wide receivers behind him, Mike Matthews, that could really get some more playing time and let him rest. And so I think it's really important to really start developing some of the receivers behind him to kind of give him some breathing time or some rest time because right now he's just not able to go out there and play. But I thought Brew, Dante Thornton, Chris Brazel, I thought all of them had great games. Tight ends got a little bit more involved in this game. I would still like to see them more involved going forward. I think that would continue to open up the offense. I think some of it has to do with a lot of the blocking schemes they're doing right now to try and keep Nico safe. But I would really like to see all the tight ends involved more. I think they all have big play potential, especially Ethan Davis. I think he is so talented. I think he's going to be really, really good these next couple of years. But I'd like to see them get involved more. But it was just a different team. A different team came out in the second half, put up 24 points. I I think after that first half, I think most people thought we should have somewhere between 21 to 28 points, maybe 30 points in that first half. It was that kind of, 2 missed field goals. It was that kind of first half of just, here we go again. Tennessee just in their own way. And if this offense ever clicks, like really starts clicking for a full game, they have every right to win the national championship. For real. This is a really, really talented team. And that offense, you can see just kind of shades of it, just glimpses of it, of how good they can be, how talented Nico really is. And I think some of those deep passes for him, I think some of that's just the yips. Like, I think he's in his own head at this point with some of the deep balls. Because you can see, like, that rollout pass, he had no right to hit Dante Thornton in stride. He couldn't have handed it to him better than what he did, throwing the ball 50 yards down the field on the run. Like, it just has so much talent. And so, you see him make those plays. And I think that's why it's so frustrating when you see some of the overthrows that he has right now. I really think he's just kind of in his own head. And I'm hoping over these next couple weeks, he'll just continue to click and they'll continue to grow. Again, he's a young quarterback, right? Every game, every rep he gets is big, and it's going to help him continue to grow. So, hope to see him be a little more consistent on those throws. I think he can be. And if he can get more consistent in the pocket, and the offensive line can continue their growth as well, this team is going to be very scary to play come postseason. And so that's about all. I think that's all I have for the offense. Nico, I think he finished 14 of 27, 194 yards, touchdown, 1 interception, 3 sacks. Still not breaking the 200-yard mark, but if he could just connect on a couple of those deep bombs in the first half, he's got almost a 300-yard game. And so he's just so close. I think that's what's so frustrating as a Tennessee fan, because you can see Heupel scheme these guys open, and then you can see them right there, and it's just out of sync. So I think they're really, really close to being special. Let's move on into the special teams category. Punting was decent. I thought it was later in the second half, and I think it was 4th and short, and I think a lot of people around midfield, I think a lot of people, especially in years past, I would expect Heupel to go for that. Didn't, trusted the punter, got it inside the 5, and stood behind just an imposing defense at this that Tim Banks is running right now. So punting was great. I thought that they were fine. Kickoffs were fine. Field goals, Max Gilbert, he is over for 50-plus yard field goals. I think he missed a 50 and a 53-yarder in the game to start. Those are 6 more points left on the field in the first half. But give Heupel credit when at the end of the game, Tennessee's up by 4. You can either try and go for it on 4th down, or you can kick the field goal and go up by 7. And Heupel still trusts Gilbert, puts him out there, nails the 41-yarder. So special teams overall were okay because you had those 2 missed field goals, but came up clutch, hit the 41-yarder to put you up by a touchdown, gave you a little bit of breathing room just in case Alabama ended up scoring a touchdown even later in the game. So that puts us into the defensive category, because this defense is a national champion level defense. It is. Tim Banks is running a clinic on every team we play right now. It is so fun to watch this defense, especially the defensive line. Once again, setting the tone, living in the backfield, pressuring the quarterback. Jalen Milroe was shook that entire game. I think partly because of Nealon, and we'll talk about that later, but James Pierce was just living in the backfield. Defensive line in general, he had no time to throw. And when he did have time, he was not hitting a lot of the throws, down the field. So he was definitely shook. He did not have a good game. James Pierce, like I said, I think he had his best game this season so far. He ended up with 1.5 sacks. I thought the linebackers played well. I think Alabama. We'll go over their stats, but I don't think they had many rushing yards. Secondary really shined as well. Jermon McCoy just showing you why he's one of the best cornerbacks in the country. Just a shutdown corner. He was on Ron Williams most of the game, and he had this amazing one-handed interception in the end zone that definitely saved some, kind of stopped some of that momentum Alabama had early. And so it was an awesome play, and then returns it like 60 yards. So he's showing why he was. I think you have Dylan Gabriel going to Oregon, and I think you have a case for Jermon McCoy being the second best transfer pickup in the country over the offseason so far this year. He's been that good. But overall, I think the biggest story is the fifth-year senior walk-on safety Will Brooks, who apparently grew up in Birmingham. I think I heard he was grew up an Auburn fan or something like that. So it had to be so special to beat this Alabama team. He finished just played out of his mind. Finished with 8 tackles, a tackle for loss. There was early in the game, Alabama, it was 3rd and short. Jalen Milroe was doing a QB sneak, pops it out to the left. And if Will Brooks doesn't make this kind of shoestring tackle on him, Milroe's gone for a touchdown. And so amazing stop there. And last play of the game for Alabama. Alabama's got the ball, minute and a half left. This is their last chance, no timeouts. And so snap the ball, Milroe throws it down the field, and Will Brooks steps in front, gets the interception. Such a cool story. He has played really, really well. I think last week he had a bit of a bad ending to that game when Florida went down and threw that touchdown that tied the game to put it in overtime. But boy, he made up for it here. Big interception for him, and saved the game. Finished the game, won the game for us there. So one of the biggest plays of the game by far, and it's just really cool to see just his story as a walk-on to make the kind of impact that he's having right now. It's pretty neat. So overall, we'll go over some of the stats. Passing yards, Milroe had 239. Which is okay. He threw it like 45 times. I think he was only 25 of 45. So that shows you how good the secondary played, and also how good the defensive line played, and how shook he was from all that and being in Neyland. And so to throw it 45 times and only end up with 239 yards, I thought that was a big deal. Nico finished with 194. This is the biggest stat of the game by far, is rushing yards. Alabama finished with 75 rushing yards. Tennessee, 214. If you can put up 200-plus rushing yards, I don't care who you're playing. If you're playing Georgia and you're putting up 200-plus rushing yards, you have a shot at winning that game. That's a big stat. Being able to run the ball should never be overlooked, and especially for an Alabama team. Alabama's not had the best run game this year at all, but especially with Milroe being their quarterback, I would have thought he would have ended up with more rushing yards, regardless of how well our defensive played. Milroe don't get it twisted. He is an amazing athlete, and he has the ability to take it to the house at any point in the game. And so I expected him to finish with a lot more rushing yards. I kind of, as far as bad calls in the game, I don't know if it's DeBoer or whoever's calling plays for Alabama. Beginning of the second half, Alabama comes out and they run it like 8 straight times, and they are marching down the field nonstop. And I was like, well, they figured it out. They run the ball. They're having some success. Surely they're just going to keep doing this. Nope, they bailed out of it, started throwing again. And so I thought Alabama bailed out of the run game early in the second half, and I think if they had kept pushing, would have made it an even closer game. So I thought that was a big deal. And so, again, Tennessee finishing with 214 rushing yards. I think the biggest factor in the whole game, though, was Neyland Stadium. That place, you heard from everybody that was at that game. I wish I could have been at that game. Everybody that was at that game talked about just how amazing that environment was. Ended up storming the field, which, second time we beat that team in 2 years. You kind of think, should we have stormed it? But I'm not going to tell people how to fan. I'm not going to lie. If I'd been there, I probably would have stormed the field too. So I'm not going to get after anybody for doing that. But storm the field. I honestly, I'm kind of glad it happened because I thought it was the coolest moment when Heupel was getting interviewed at the end of the game after Tennessee had won. And, he just says all the right things, turns around and just starts celebrating with the fans and on field. It was really, really cool to see. It was a cool moment. Seeing everybody light up their victory cigars as is custom for this game. I think it really just reiterates to the whole country just how important this rivalry is. You had Nick Saban on game day talk about how this game was more important to Alabama than even the Iron Bowl, which I'm sure some fans might argue against that, but it just shows you how important this game is to both fan bases, to both programs, and it's just really cool to see these games, whether we had won or lost, just how competitive it was, and just how good it is for college football that both of these teams are in the top 10. I think Tennessee we were 11th or something like that, but still, both programs doing well or pretty well is good for college football, and so it's really cool to see this rivalry take on new life. And so Neyland Stadium, Alabama finished with 15 penalties for like 115 yards, and I'm telling you right now, a lot of that was due to Neyland. I've been saying this the whole time. Milroe was shook. The offensive line couldn't hear anything. Tons and tons of penalties, and so it was really cool to see all that and kind of see Neyland just rocking that night and seeing kind of the smoke going up over the stadium. It was pretty neat. So let's move on now. Look at the new AP poll that dropped yesterday. Oregon is your new number one. I think that's fair. They beat Ohio State. They're undefeated this year. They've looked, Dylan Gabriel and their offense, they've looked really good. So I think it's fair they're number one. Georgia shot all the way up to number two. I like that move. You don't go play at Texas and beat them like they did and not get a big bump. So I think that's important that they jumped all the way up to number two. Big time win for them. Texas, welcome to the SEC. I can't stand Texas. Penn State is 3. They're still undefeated, but I think they play Ohio State coming up, so that's going to be a big game. Ohio State is 4th. 5th, Texas. They fell 4 spots. 6th is Miami. I still don't know how good Miami is. They're undefeated, granted, but they've had a couple close games that refs really had a lot to do with it, and Louisville definitely gave them a scare in this game. And so I don't know how good they really are. I think they're a good team. Don't get me wrong. I think if they were playing just some better competition, that they would not be undefeated at this point. I don't know. I might be wrong on that. Cam Ward is an amazing player. He may win the Heisman, so they very well might go all the way. So they're at 6. Tennessee jumps 4 spots from 11th up to 7th. And I thought they were going to be 7th or 8th. I didn't know if we were going to get to honestly, I thought we might even be 9th with the way Clemson and LSU has played. And so I was happy with getting 7th. 8th is LSU, 9th is Clemson. I think both of those teams have played really well. Iowa State dropped a spot. They're at 10. They're still undefeated, though. They had a scare this weekend. Alabama fell all the way to 15th, which I think that's fair. They have a lot of things they're going to have to answer. They have to find an identity on offense. Defensively, they're okay. I think the secondary is a little suspect, but offensively, they have to kind of find themselves over these next few weeks because they still have some big time games coming up, particularly against LSU. And then shout out to Vandy making the top 25. I think the first time in over a decade. So good for them. They keep winning. So that game at the end of the year is looking bigger and bigger as the season progresses. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to go over the top 10 and talk about where Tennessee landed. So where does Tennessee go from here? Right, we're going into the bye week. We get us a bit of a break, get healthy. Maybe Squirrel White can get that shoulder healed in time. I don't know if that's something he's going to get over this season. I think that's at least nagging him for a majority of the rest of the season. I don't know if you can really get that better without just completely resting it, especially being a wide receiver. So I think biggest thing, and it's obvious, right, is figuring out how to stop these slow starts on offense, right? How to really kickstart the offense at the beginning of the game. And it's so mind-boggling because, Heupel almost every year has one of the best scoring teams in the first quarter, in the first half of every game. Typically, Tennessee always starts off fast. And so it's really odd to see them struggle like they have in the first half. Second half, we've been fine. We've gotten better as the games went on, which I guess is a mark of a team that eventually figures it out and keeps competing. So you like that, but you really want to see them try to get back in a rhythm. I think they need to continue to scheme Nico rolling out more and keep having him run the ball, because I really do think that opens up the offense more for Dylan Sampson and this offensive line. I think it puts it takes a lot of pressure off a lot of people if Nico can show that he's mobile. And so that, figuring out why this offense is starting slow, seeing if they can't get in a better rhythm. Kentucky earlier in the year beat Ole Miss in Oxford, and so you really can't overlook them. I know before the season started, I just talked so much smack about how we always beat Kentucky. I'm definitely nervous, especially with the slow start that we've had over these last few weeks. It's so important for us to start fast against Kentucky because Kentucky has such a slow-paced offense. If you can get up by 2 or 3 scores, they have a very hard time playing catch-up. And so you really can't overlook them, can't overlook their defense, even though they got annihilated at Florida this last, over the weekend. They have shown that they can be good. If you remember, they almost beat Georgia, beat Ole Miss at Ole Miss. So I think they play Auburn in Lexington. That's going to be an important game for both those programs. I think Kentucky's 3-4, Auburn's 2-5. Auburn should have beat Missouri, and they didn't. And so a lot of answers need to be had on both teams. And so there's quite a bit at stake, I think, for both of those programs, especially if they want to make bowl games. And so I think that'll be it's really good that we get Kentucky coming off the bye week. Get to prepare for them a little bit more, get healthy, see if you can't get back into a rhythm. But anyway, that's all I got for this one. I want to, obviously big time win for this program. Like I said, third Saturday in October, Tennessee beats Alabama, and it was just so much fun to watch. If you're a Tennessee fan, it's okay to be frustrated at this offense, but please, I'm not trying to tell you how to fan, but please enjoy these wins, because it's a big deal that we beat Florida and Alabama in an 8-day span. That's a big deal. Both big-time rivalry games, and you don't beat them very often. And so to beat them back-to-back like that, especially in the same year, it's a big deal. So enjoy this win. And then, next weekend, take the weekend off, get yourselves right, and get ready to watch Tennessee play Kentucky here in a couple weeks. So thank you so much. That's all I got for this one. Thank you so much for watching this. I appreciate each and every one of you sticking it out. If you don't mind, like the video. That really helps me out. Drop a comment down below. How did you feel about the Tennessee-Alabama game? Do you have any suggestions on how Tennessee can improve their first half offensive performance? Do you think they finished at the right spot in the top, in the top 10? Should they even be in the top 10? I think a lot of people think that Tennessee shouldn't even be in the top 10. So I think they should. But anyway, definitely be sure to subscribe to this channel so you can keep getting some of this content. I really appreciate everybody. It's right down below. It's just this. It says subscribe. Go ahead, smash that for me. It really helps me out. Tell somebody about the channel. Help me continue to grow this thing. Tell somebody about Guy Talk Sports, and help me continue to do this. I really do enjoy getting to do these videos. So thank you again so much. Go Vols. We'll see you next time.